This is TPI, the podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. You know that article you sent about David Smith, the man in Goodwater, Alabama, who lost his home in a fire?
Oh yeah, the one who was living in his truck.
Exactly. He ended up living in his truck for a whole year after the fire. It's just heartbreaking, but also what a story of resilience, right?
Definitely. And the way the community came together to help him is just incredible.
It really is. So today we're going to dive into his story, what makes it so powerful, and what we can all learn from it.
I think a lot of people are really going to connect with this one.
For sure. It's got everything, heartbreak, resilience, and a whole community that really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, that's what I find so fascinating. The power of community and how even small acts of kindness can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a theme we see throughout Mr. Smith's story. So to start things off, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay, back to the beginning.
So it all started with a woman named Betty Adamson.
I read about her amazing woman.
Right. She was just driving through her neighborhood and saw Mr. Smith sitting in his truck.
I can't imagine just seeing someone living in their truck like that.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom. But here's the thing. Betty had seen him around before, and this time something just told her to stop and check on him.
Really? Like fate intervened.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Crazy. And it turned out to be such a pivotal moment.
It really did, because she ended up being the first person to actually ask him if he needed help.
The first person after a whole year.
I know. Can you believe that a whole year he was living in his truck after his house burned down? He lost his wife a few years before that and didn't have much family around.
So basically no support system.
None whatsoever. And in all that time, Betty was the very first person to stop and say, hey, do you need help?
It just makes you wonder how many other people are out there struggling silently.
It really does. It's a wake-up call for all of us to be more present in our communities and really see our neighbors.
Absolutely, we need to pay attention.
Right. And Betty, she didn't just stop there. She went home and shared Mr. Smith's story on Facebook.
Oh, wow. So that's how it all started.
Yeah. That's how things really got rolling, because two of her friends, Cassie Gardner and Tara Newberry, saw her post and they were like, we got to help this man.
So these three women, they were the driving force behind everything.
Pretty much they became Mr. Smith's guardian angels, working tirelessly to turn his situation around.
It's amazing what they were able to accomplish.
I know, and it all started with just a simple Facebook post.
The power of social media.
Right, but what's even more impressive is that they didn't have some big, elaborate plan or tons of resources. They started small, focusing on his immediate needs.
Like making sure he had food and water, a place to sleep.
Exactly. They got him a tent to start, and then they found out that his power had been out since the fire because a tree had fallen on a power line.
Oh, wow. So they had no electricity for a whole year.
Nope, it was a mess. But these women, they didn't let that stop them. They rallied some people to clear the land so they could get his power turned back on.
So resourceful.
They were amazing. And then things got even better because a county commissioner named John Forbes heard about what they were doing, and he donated a camper for Mr. Smith to live in.
Wait a minute, a whole camper?
A whole camper. Can you believe it?
Oh, that's incredible. Talk about a game changer.
It was such a huge turning point for Mr. Smith.
So from a tent to a camper, that's amazing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it just shows you how one act of kindness can lead to another and create a ripple effect of generosity.
It's like that saying, when you throw a pebble in the water, the ripples go on forever.
Exactly. And in this case, those ripples brought Mr. Smith a whole new home.
So it wasn't just the big things like the camper, right?
Nope. People were also donating smaller things, food, clothes, money, whatever they could spare.
So everyone was chipping in.
It really became a community effort. I read that one couple brought 2 boxes of food and another person donated a huge bag of clothes.
That's so heartwarming.
It really is. It shows how much people cared.
And it sends a message that you don't have to be wealthy to make a difference.
Even small contributions can add up to something big.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the women who was helping Mr. Smith, Cassie Gardner, she actually had a personal connection to his story.
Oh, really? What was it?
Well, it turns out her family went through a house fire when she was a child.
Oh, wow. So she knew firsthand what it was like to lose everything.
Exactly. And I think that experience really fueled her empathy and made her even more determined to help Mr. Smith.
I could see how that would be a powerful motivator.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have Betty Adamson. She seems like she's always going above and beyond to help people in need.
I read that too. She sounds like an amazing woman.
The article mentioned that she had recently helped another young man in the community get back on his feet and find a job.
It's like she's got this incredible gift for helping others.
She does. It's inspiring.
Makes you wonder what motivates someone like that.
It does. Maybe it's just in her nature.
Whatever it is, it's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And for these three women, it wasn't just about getting Mr. Smith back into a home. It was about making him feel loved and cared for after all he had been through.
Right, he'd lost so much.
They wanted to fill that void, not just physically, but emotionally, too.
So it went beyond just meeting his basic needs.
For sure, they even got his dogs neutered. They were thinking of every detail.
Wow, that's dedication.
I know. And the thing is, none of these women were particularly wealthy themselves.
So how did they manage to do all this?
Well, they started a GoFundMe page and managed to raise over $500.
That's awesome.
And that was on top of all the other donations that came pouring in.
The power of collective action.
Exactly. It's amazing what can happen when people come together for a common cause.
And social media played a big role in this too, right?
Absolutely. They used it to spread the word about Mr. Smith's situation and rally support from people far and wide.
It's a good example of how social media can be used for good.
Cassie Gardner actually said, social media is a powerful thing. It can be used as a bad thing, or like this, it's turned into something great for somebody who didn't even know that there were people out there who cared anymore.
That's a great quote.
It really sums it up perfectly.
It does.
So what do you think so far?
I'm already hooked. This story is amazing.
Me too. It's incredible to see how much these women were able to achieve and how the community rallied around Mr. Smith.
It's a testament to the power of human connection and the good that can come from even the smallest acts of kindness.
Couldn't have said it better myself, but hold on tight because we're just getting started.
There's so much more to uncover.
We're going to dive even deeper into the impact of their actions and explore what we can all learn from Mr. Smith's story.
I can't wait.
Stay with us.
It's easy to forget sometimes,
What's that?
that there are people struggling, right, in our own communities. We get so caught up in our own lives.
It's true. And this story is a good reminder to look around and see who might need our help. Like, remember how Mr. Smith's power had been out for that whole year because of the tree on the power line?
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
The crew that came out to clear the land so they could hook up the camper, that's dedication.
Yeah, totally. It shows what can happen when people work together towards a shared goal.
And when people come together to donate, too.
Right. All those donations really added up.
It wasn't just about the camper or the big things either. People were bringing food, clothing, anything they could spare.
Like a grassroots effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows how much people cared. They wanted to help.
It also challenges the idea that only wealthy people can make a difference.
Definitely. Every little bit counts.
All those small contributions made a big impact.
For sure, what really struck me was how genuinely motivated these women were. They weren't doing it for recognition or praise.
No, they just wanted to help.
They saw someone in need and they stepped up.
And they went above and beyond just providing material support.
Right. They wanted to make sure Mr. Smith felt loved and cared for, too, especially after losing so much.
Like they were trying to rebuild his life, not just his house.
Exactly. I mean, they even got his dogs neutered. That's attention to detail.
It's a more holistic approach to helping someone.
And think about how much they accomplished with limited resources.
It's amazing, right? They weren't wealthy philanthropists or anything.
Just ordinary people who inspired others to join their cause.
And that's where the power of social media comes in.
Big time. They were able to reach so many people and spread the word.
It's like Cassie said. It can be used as a bad thing or like this. It's turned into something great for somebody who didn't even know that there were people out there who cared anymore.
Powerful words.
They really highlight the potential of human connection, even through technology.
It's not just about likes and shares. It's about using those tools to make a real difference in people's lives.
This whole story is so heartwarming.
It is, but it also makes you think
About
how we can create a world where people don't have to suffer in silence for so long before someone notices.
That's a big question.
It is, but it's an important one. We need to be more aware, more compassionate, and more willing to step up and help each other.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be some grand heroic act,
Sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact.
like a smile word or just listening to someone.
Those little things can go a long way.
It really can, and they can inspire others to do the same.
Just like Betty stopping to ask Mr. Smith if he needed help.
Exactly. It started a chain reaction of kindness.
And that's what this story is all about, the power of human connection and the potential for good that exists in all of us.
We just need to tap into it.
This whole deep dive has been so inspiring.
It really has.
It's amazing to see what can happen when people come together to support each other.
And it's a story that deserves to be shared.
Agreed, by sharing stories like Mr. Smith's. We remind people of the power of community and the good that's still out there in the world.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
Well said. I've really enjoyed exploring this story with you.
You too. It's been great.
We've got one more part to this incredible deep dive.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Stay tuned. We'll be back to reflect on what we can learn from Mr. Smith's story and think about how we can apply those lessons to our own lives. As we wrap up this deep dive into Mr. Smith's story, it's hard not to feel a sense of hope, you know?
Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in all the negativity in the world, but then you see something like this and it reminds you that there's still so much good out there.
It really does. It's like Mr. Smith's story. It's not just about him, you know?
What do you mean?
Well, it speaks to something bigger, a universal need to feel connected like you belong and that you're not alone in your struggles.
You're right. It highlights the importance of community.
Exactly. And not just community as a place, but as a feeling, a support system.
And those women who helped Mr. Smith, they really understood that.
They did. They knew that true compassion goes beyond just meeting basic needs. It's about restoring dignity, making someone feel loved and valued.
And they didn't just give him material support, they actively built a community around him.
They did. They got their friends, their neighbors, even strangers involved.
It was a collective effort.
And that's what made all the difference. It wasn't one person saving the day. It was a group of people coming together.
It shows that we all have the power to make a difference.
Even in small ways.
Exactly. We might not all be able to donate a camper or organize a fundraiser.
But we can all offer a helping hand, lend an ear, or just be kind.
Those little things can have a big impact.
And they can inspire others to do the same.
Like a ripple effect.
Exactly like when Betty stopped to ask Mr. Smith if he needed help.
It set off a chain reaction of generosity and compassion.
And Cassie's quote about social media comes to mind again.
It can be used as a bad thing or like this. It's turned into something great for somebody who didn't even know that there were people out there who cared anymore.
So powerful.
It shows how technology can be used to connect people and make a real difference.
Sharing stories like this is so important.
It reminds us that even in the face of hardship, there's always hope.
And kindness.
They're like an antidote to all the negativity in the world.
They lift us up and inspire us.
And they challenge us to be better, to do better.
Mr. Smith's story isn't just a feel-good story.
It's a call to action.
To build stronger, more supportive communities where everyone feels seen and heard and cared for.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay, I'm listening.
What small act of kindness can you do today that might spark a ripple effect in your own community?
It's a good question.
It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be as simple as smiling at a stranger or helping a neighbor.
Even the smallest gesture can make a difference.
And when we all do our part, we can create a world where stories like Mr. Smith's are the norm.
A world full of hope and kindness.
That's a world I want to live in.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. It's been a pleasure exploring this story with you.
Likewise. And thanks for sharing this amazing story with us.
Until next time, keep your hearts open and keep an eye out for those everyday heroes who are making the world a better place, one kind act at a time.
TPI the Podcast is a production of TPI Media and brought to you by TPI Digital. It's all about the audience, and whatever your marketing needs, we can reach that audience. To find out more, go to tpidigital.com or click the link in the show notes.